guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with the first half of my August wrap-up. I cannot believe we're already halfway through August, but we are, and I have a crazy busy September, October, so this is going to be interesting once we are done with August, but I'm trying to soak up the not busy time after having a really busy June and beginning of August. So I have 10 books to share with you. I have not been able to read a lot like during the week, but on the weekends is where I thrive, and I also want to show off my new shirt. I got this from Book Babe Designs. They had a launch for their like fall stuff. And I don't know if you know this, but I hate summer. Even though my birthday's in the summer, that is the only good thing about summer to me. I don't like it. It gets hot and I'd rather not be hot. I love being cold and being able to like wrap up. And my camera looked crooked, so I just fixed that. But I am obsessed with their new design. So I got this like ghost one and it says forever reading books. So, and it's like books. I love it. I will link them down below. I don't know if they're still for sale right now, but I got this for me and then another one for me and another one for my sister. So love them. But I'm gonna go ahead and get to the books that I read this month. I started off the month fantastic, and I read Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles. This is the second or third time I've read this. It comes out next week. I got to beta read this, and I do work for her, so I got to read it again for work purposes, and I am obsessed. This book is so good. This one is about Shep and Thea, and Thea is running from a past. She has a hidden identity, and Shep is this golden retriever character. He works in construction, and he is the brother of the heroine from book one, and she works with the heroine a little bit at the nursery in town, and everyone knows that she's hiding something because she's very secretive. She doesn't let even anybody into her house, and Shep comes around because she has a water leak, and they get a little closer, and he stops by the bakery every morning where she also works, and it's so precious. Like, she was hurt so badly in her past, and he just wants to be there to help her and save her. It's definitely a slow burn, and romantic suspense, which is always amazing, and I never guess the villain. It always shocks me every time. So good. Absolute 5 out of 5 stars. I love this so much. I'm obsessed with everything she writes. This whole series is going to be amazing. Then I did a content read for work for Blind Date with the Billionaire Doc by Jolie Day. That was a mouthful. This one is one that I primarily read just to pull content from, so I'm not going to be rating this, but this one is a surprise pregnancy, kind of second chance. She had a crush on him when they were younger, and she's supposed to go on a blind date with a doctor and runs into him instead and leaves the bar with him and stands up her date. They have a one-night stand. 9 months later, she has a baby, and he is her doctor who delivers her baby, and he thought she moved on. So that's the premise of this one. Very rom-com. This one I believe comes out in August. Then I did get an arc of Homebound by Meredith Trapp, and this one I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars, rounding up to 5 on Goodreads. This one is a single dad romance. She is a female bull rider, so he has been in love with her their entire lives. He has been pining after her, and she's definitely very much like a wild child, free spirit, and doesn't really let anybody hold her down, and so they never got together. She never saw him that way, and then he left when she had a fiance, and the fiance was another bull rider and basically told him like, stay away from her, like, I know how you feel. And so he leaves and doesn't come back for 3 years, and he has a baby. He's a single dad now, and he is living in the same house as her because she's living in this like renovated barn that his moms own, and he is staying there as well during the off season because he's actually a hockey player. And so they are spending time together. He's helping her train for bull riding, and they fall for each other, and he's very adamant that he is there to win her over, and it was so good. I do think that the last like quarter definitely slowed down a little bit like in plot for me, which I've been noticing a lot in romances. That's what happened to the next book I'm going to talk about too, which is why I got a 4.5 star, but I love their dynamic. I love a hero who falls first, and he is determined to get the girl. It was so good. You should read this. Then I listened to an audio arc of Northern Twilight by Samantha Young. This one is a second chance surprise pregnancy romance, and I will say I'm not someone who loves surprise pregnancy. That did come into play during a lot of the second half, which is kind of where this lost the 0.5 star for me. So this is a 4.5 star again for me, and this one, I love a second chance romance. So they were so madly in love in high school, and then kid things happened. Like, they were freaking out about their futures. She overhears something, and they break up, and she's heartbroken, but it's like valid just questioning and concerns as a teenager trying to figure out your life. So they end up going their separate ways, and then like 7 years later, she comes back to town and they actually meet in London and have a one-night stand, and then both realize they're moving back to their small town. She is a baker. She was spending time in France learning like pastry school and studying under people, and now she's working at her mom's bakery, and he is coming back home to work for some kind of business. I don't remember if it's like his parents or something, but now they're both back home and they have to kind of acknowledge what had happened, and everyone knows that they didn't end well, and she gets pregnant. And so that is the story. It does take a while for her to get pregnant in this one. I just knew because that's how it was marketed. She did post that it was a surprise pregnancy romance, and that's where like I started to kind of lose interest in the story, was that last like 25%, when it was more so like they were in love and just trying to navigate like having a baby together. So 4.5 stars for me, but still such a good series, and I love the angst of the second chance romance. Then I did finish a beta read, which was so exciting. This one is a small town romance that's coming out soon that I will talk about once the book is released. But then I did get an arc of The Hunted Heir by Holly Renee. Now I love this series and I am still excited for book 3, but this one I did end up giving 3 stars. So I am disappointed that I didn't love this more, but the first book was 4.5 stars. Like, I loved it, and that ending was amazing. So twisty, so tension filled with the romance, but this one picks up at the cliffhanger of the previous book, and usually as a series progresses we get a little bit more about the world building and about like the magic system, because a lot of that was not answered in book 1 and it still was not developed in book 2, and I was like, we should have gotten something. And most of the plot is them on the run to a certain place, and I feel like the hero kind of lost his charm. I don't know if I would call it, but he was so just like pushing at her and very enemies to lovers, hate to love, playing mind games with her, and which I loved. And then this one, he's just like all in for her, and I don't even see like groveling from him after what happened in the previous book. It's just like all of a sudden it's like, we're in love, and I was like, but where's our progression in that? We still don't understand any of the magic system. Nothing was revealed. I'm still very confused, and nothing was revealed, and it was 200 pages. I wish this was at least like 75 pages longer, if not just 50 pages longer. We would have gotten, I feel like, a lot more substance if it was a longer book than 200 pages. I feel like that's very, very short, especially for a fantasy. And the end was a cliffhanger that I felt like was pretty obvious. I was like, I could have expected this to happen. So nothing was as twisty as book 1. Nothing was as like romantically addicting as book 1. So, and I feel like comparing itself to the previous book, it didn't live up to it. So 3 stars for this one. Very sad, but this one does come out soon. Then I read Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. I got to listen to an ALC of this, which is an advanced listener copy, and this one, perfection, 5 stars. This is a small town, single dad romance. Again, I've been reading a lot of single dad romances, and I have another one to talk about. This one is our hero, who is Nash, and his son is Beefcake, who we've seen throughout the entire book, and he's adorable, very found family because he has a group of guy best friends, and Beefcake has asthma, and it gets really, really, really bad, and so Nash is always very concerned and has a plan with the doctor. So they're visiting the doctor, and the doctor's like, by the way, like, I'm being replaced because I'm retiring, and in walks in our heroine, Emerson, and she is just in town for 6 months because she just got out of a very long-term relationship and she just like doesn't know what to do with her life. So, and that was her only boyfriend. And so her and Nash are both very closed off to a lot of people, especially romantically, but Nash like is like, who the heck are you? You're not gonna do a good job taking care of my son, and very protective of his son for a good reason. And she kind of doesn't take his crap and then goes out of her way to be kind and like helpful with his son because they are neighbors too, and they end up falling for each other, and it is so good. And Emerson and Beefcake get like really, really close too, which was so precious. I had so much fun reading this. The audiobook, amazing, 5 stars. Definitely read this series and read this one if you haven't yet. Then I listened to the audiobook of this because so the Laura Pavlov was in a vlog, plus this, plus the next book. So the next book I read for that vlog is The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson, and I loved this. I gave this 5 stars. I listened to it on audio. This is a brother's best friend romance where she's had a crush on her brother's best friend since she was young. And he's 5 years older though, so like if she's 15, he's 20. If she's 14, he's 19. Like, it could have never been something in his eyes, so he never saw her that way, but she has been pining after him, like doodling his name in her notebook kind of thing. And now they are, I think, like 30 in their 20s and 30s, and he's a professional hockey player, and she is a host of like a baking show like on the news, and he is traded to her brother's team back in their hometown. So her brother's also a hockey player, but he's injured right now, and she still has a crush on him, but she has her network that's like, our ratings aren't great, like you could be facing cuts. And so she's like, well, we could always get a hockey player in here because my brother's on the team, we have connections. And her brother's best friend, he is having a rough time with his reputation because of things that have happened that are out of his control and not true that are put in the media. And so they're like, you should fix your reputation, let's get you on the show. And they have such good chemistry together that they're like, okay, you need a fake date. So then they fake date, and it turns into more, and this was just so good. And like, I loved when I talked about the other books and how they kind of like petered out at like 25%. The end of this one was so good because it really focused on developing this plot point that the author had taken with the family of his and like drama happening there that was also testing their relationship and proving that they could be there for each other while he was dealing with this huge blow up with his family. And I just loved it. I adored every second of this. I listened to this entire thing in one day. I could not stop, and their chemistry was everything. I loved it. So please read this. It was amazing. In that same vlog, I read So Wrong by Abby Millsaps. I got through like 200 pages of this in a day and then finished the rest later, and this was so good. This was really right book, right time. So I feel like I just was addicted. Even though there's not like a huge plot in this, and I usually need more plot in my romances, I was in the mood to have something angsty, and that's what this was. So this is So Wrong by Abby Millsaps. It's book 1. I just got book 2 in the mail. Had to order it. I think it's right behind me. Right here. It's right under here. On our heroine, she had fallen in love with her stepbrother, and it's a case where they fell in love before they knew their parents were dating, and so they were falling head over heels. It was the summer before college, and then she leaves for 3 years and does not talk to him or his best friend, and she barely talks to her mom. So she goes to Europe for 3 years, and their parents get married, so they're full-on step-siblings. And now she's back attending college, and he is there, and she's moved into his dad's house with him, and she's like 2 doors down from him. And then his best friend, who was pretty close to being her best friend back then, he gets injured and has to move back home, and his mother's like really horrible. So she pretends to fake date him so that he can move in with them and they can take care of him so he's not stuck with his mom. So the 3 of them are living together, and the 2 guys are in love with her. And this is gonna be why I choose, but you do not know why she broke up with the guy in the past. It's very emotional, and the guy, the best friend, is making his move now. And right now there are only 2 in the why choose. There's this mysterious guy from Europe that we don't know, and I guess there's gonna be a 4th guy according to her TikTok. So I'm very intrigued. I'm really loving this romance, and it just like had a lot of past to present, which I really love in a second chance romance, and I was hooked. I could not put this down. I'm so excited to continue on, read book 2, and see where this goes, because it's a very messy relationship and I'm here for it. It's so good. Okay, so the last one, I have an hour left of the audiobook, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it now because I'm pretty settled on my rating for this one, and that is There With You by Samantha Young. This is book 2 in the Adair series. I am reading this with my Patreon, so we're reading the whole series together, and all the audios are on Hoopla. These are Scottish romances. This one's a single dad nanny romance. So this one, our hero lives next door to her sister. She went through a lot of really rough stuff, and her sister was kidnapped in the previous book, and she never reached out and was there for her sister, so she feels guilty. But now she's finally visiting, and she has a lot to work through with her sister, and she really wants to stay, but no one is hiring. And then she hears the hero next door, the guy next door who has 2 kids, needs a nanny, and at first he doesn't want to hire her, but she's like, I'm literally desperate and I have experience babysitting and nannying, and so he hires her. She is younger than him, and they fall in love. The kids are adorable. So this is actually Lewis, who is the hero of Northern Twilight. So we see him as like a 7-year-old in here, and this one is a spin-off series, which I think is really funny. But in this one, she grows really close with the kids. She's so good with them, and obviously her and the hero like have moments, but he is really torn up because he had lost his wife and they had a really complicated relationship, and so he's very closed off. And also they have an age gap, and he's really good friends with her sister's fiance, so it's like very difficult to navigate, and they fall in love. And there's gonna be people have feelings about them being together, but so far I'm giving this like 4.5, and it depends on how the last hour goes. I'm more so going to go with a 4, but probably still leave it at 4.5 because it's really, really, really good. There's just some slow moments because it's a big, thick book, but she does deal with a lot in her past, and that comes into play, and the hero is very, very protective. We love a protective hero, and I really love how the kids are depicted, so I'm really enjoying this one. Probably gonna be a 4.5 star. Definitely recommend this if you like single dad nanny romance, and in Scotland. It's so good. And those are all the books that I've read so far in August, all 10 of them. Let me know what you've read so far this month, and if you've read these and what your thoughts are. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.